It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco.
My first allegiance is what will be best for the Philadelphia Eagles and our fans for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Go to PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Andrew DiCecco is in the house talking NFL draft. If you have questions for Andrew, draft conversation, Eagles conversation, football conversation, text 609-403-0973 or hit us up in the live video chat, and we will tackle some of your draft questions for Andrew DiCecco. As, of course, Football at 4 powered by Inside the Birds. Their new podcast dropped this morning. You can listen to that every Monday and Thursday at 6 a.m. as he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. We are now 2 weeks away from the NFL Draft. What's going on, Andrew?
Hey, doing well, Mike. How's it going?
2 weeks away. It's almost like it feels like Christmas. It's like, oh, my God, I can't wait. But there's so much that's still kind of dissect and break down. The Eagles situation at number 12, I think a lot of people have kind of I don't want to say a lot of people. I think it's been mixed bag all over the place. Corner, wide receiver. I think I see a little bit of edge rush in there, not too much. But what do you, when you, I know you don't watch or look at a lot of mock drafts here, but in your mind, what is the outside notion of what the Eagles need to do the most at that spot? An offensive player or a defensive player?
Well, when they were at 6, it was all about the offense. But I think now, sitting there at 12, there's always the outside chance that a Jalen Waddle falls to 12, which I think would certainly appease the fan base, getting that speed, another speed receiver, another weapon for Jalen Hurts in the offense. But I think the best player that's going to be available at 12 is going to be J.C. Horn, who many feel, and I'm one of them, that he is the top corner in this draft now that Caleb Farley is going through that back procedure. So I think that's a great that's no small consolation, dropping down to 12 and getting the top play corner.
Yeah, so I asked a question today on Twitter that got some interesting answers to, and the question I asked is, a lot of people did not like the trade to number 12. I think a lot of those people they don't like Howie, they don't like the move to 12, they thought 6. So if you hated the Eagles trade from 6 to 12, what player would make you change your mind? If they land this guy, you'll now like the trade. So if there's a guy at 12 that they get, that you think they can get, that would be the surprise guy, which guy is that? That you think that, man, I didn't want them to move to 12, but if they get him, I will now say this was a good trade.
Well, I think if you're a fan, you're looking at the scenarios. If you're able to get a Jalen Waddle at 12, who is a top 10 talent, I mean, some feel that he's better than Devontae Smith and will have a better pro career than Devontae Smith. I think if you can get him at 12, I think that's a victory. I think if you get a J.C. Horn at 12, that's a victory because I do like his upside. And I think that he offers probably the most upside out of the top 3 corners. Not necessarily the most ready or refined to go right yet, but I think that he offers immense upside. So I think if you get one of those two players, a Rashawn Slater, kind of won't really – he's not going to garner a lot of headlines because he's an offensive lineman, but he would be a great addition there as well.
All right, so some questions are coming in from our listeners already for Andrew for the draft. Mike from Dover, Delaware. What's going on in Delaware there, Mike? He wants to know why Caleb Farley is getting no love or mention. He says, I feel like everything I hear, no mention of him. It looks like he has the size, so why is it no Farley?
Well, Mike, you're right that he does have the size, the athleticism, the ball skills. But, I mean, there's always that injury concern, right? I mean, he's going through a back procedure now. He had the back issue earlier in his career. He dealt with that all season, missed 2 games with that, had a non-contact ACL injury in 2017. So, I mean, looking at the history, Jeffrey Simmons is the most recent one I could think of that was able to kind of bounce back and overcome that. But I mean, look at the Sidney Jones situation. I think that things are going to be more inclined to shy away from that when you're dealing with, you're trying to fork over a premier draft capital. I think that you want somebody with a clean bill of health that's not doesn't have those medical red flags. I mean, the talent is undeniable, but I think when you're looking at that part of the draft, you're going to go with someone like a Pat Surtain or a J.C. Horn, who is healthy and both offer varying degrees of upside. I mean, unfortunately for him, he's going to probably tumble a little bit. I don't know that it'll be entirely out of the first round, but I mean, that's kind of why he's become sort of an afterthought when mentioning the corners.
Is he a guy you would, if he's tumbling, you would trade back into the first round to get?
Oh, absolutely. I would.
All right, let's get some questions here. Wants to know who's the top. Okay, this is interesting. Who's your top edge rusher? Because at 12, is an edge rusher in play? And if so, let's kind of break down. A lot of people haven't been talking a lot about these edge rushers. So who's your guy there?
I got asked this question in my mailbag, and it's really interesting because this year is one of the first years that I can recall that there's no clear-cut number one edge rusher in this class. Now, there's guys that I like, and the most obvious one is going to be Gregory Rousseau from Miami, but I'm not inclined to say that he's the top guy because he also has certain areas of his game. He only has the 1 year production, but he also needs to add a lot of weight and size and develop his play strength and really develop a pass rush arsenal. So I don't know that. I mean, you're drafting him based on projection. I don't know that he's really shown. He still has to answer a lot of questions, is what I'm getting at. So I look at Kwity Paye from Michigan, and I also look at Jason Owe from Penn State. Those are the two guys that I look at. They're two entirely different players, but I mean, based on the feedback and everything we've seen from Jason Owe, I think that he's going to get some consideration for that top edge rusher.
Now, would you agree, Andrew, that the Eagles need to get a edge rusher in this, not only in this draft, but in the top portion of in those first 3 rounds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. And I think that when you're looking at 12, my gut's telling me that they're going to look at Kwity Paye. He's going to get some heavy consideration there at 12. Would that be the best investment, best use of resource? No, I don't think so, because Kwity Paye, I don't know, based on his makeup and his skill set, I don't know that he'll ever be a consistent double-digit sack guy at the next level. I do think that you need to address that in the top 3 rounds, but I also think at 70, you're going to have your choice of pass rushers from Pitt, who I really like, Rashad Weaver and Patrick Jones, who I also think offer varying degrees of upside. So there's going to be options there. I think at 12, when you're looking at what they have, what they're probably going to have to work with, I mean, you're going to come away with a top corner. I mean, or even a receiver like Jalen Waddle that could happen. So, I mean, who knows? I think that those would be the best use of resources when you're looking at the 12th pick.
Okay, some more questions coming in. This one is from one of our viewers, ISPR, who wants to know what grade or round does Andrew have on linebacker Zaven Collins? I think he's the kid from Tulsa?
Yeah, he's a Tulsa guy. He's a very interesting player, and I appreciate this question because I was really high on him early in the process. He's kind of become something of an afterthought throughout this whole pre-draft process. He, to me, strikes me. I have him in the second round, by the way, late second round pick. But I think he's more of a 3-4 fit. And for as big as he is, he really is underwhelming as far as just his overall physicality, block shedding, and things of that nature. He moves really well for his size, and which is he's very fluid and he can move sideline to sideline and everything. But his lack of physicality was really, really concerning to me and apparent when I watched him on film. You don't usually see somebody that size kind of get walled off by linemen as regularly as he does.
All right, here's a question from Jalen. He wants to know, is there any chance that, I'll do my best here, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah could be there at the end of the first round, early second, and if he is, should the Eagles try to move up to snag him? I like how people, Andrew, are starting to already think about the guys who are falling to get back because they have that second, third round pick now, and that gives them the ammunition. So they seem like at 37 and 2 third-round picks, they seem like a definitive candidate to move back up.
Yeah, I actually see him as more of a 20 to 25 going in that range. So if he does if he's still there and the Eagles really like him and they have a fit for him, and, Jonathan Gannon envisions a defense where he's going to be a prominent player like Darius Leonard was for the Colts, and he saw the impact that a linebacker like that can have. But then, yeah, I can certainly see that. He's not going to be available in the second round. I highly doubt it.
No, is that a player, though, that you would recommend trading back up if he's there? Like, hey, this guy's there at 27. Let's move up 10 spots because we really want him. Not sure we can get him at 37.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at it like that, I would say why not just hang tight at 37 and take Baron Browning from Ohio State?
Okay, so comparable.
Yeah, I think so. As far as skill set, I mean, maybe not quite he's not quite the athlete, but Browning's not quite the athlete. But I think that he does have comparable skill set, and he has the length, and he's going to be a plug and play starter. He's one of the few players that I saw his transition to the NFL being pretty seamless.
All right, now here's a question that wants to know. I don't think this is possible, but let's see what you say. Any chance the Eagles could get back in and get both Parsons and Horn? You see Horn dropping to where a team would have to trade and say, look, he's at 18, he's at 19. I mean, Parsons, I don't think they take at 12, though, either.
No, I don't think they take Parsons at 12.
Is he on the board at 12?
I mean, I think he could get some. It wouldn't surprise me if Denver were to take him at 9. Maybe Giants at 11.
All right. Here's a question, Andrew, that Bill wants to know. He says, if the Eagles pass on that wide receiver at 12, is there one that you would target at 37, or would you wait until the third round and get one?
It's a good question, Bill. And yeah, I'm looking at Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver from LSU, at 37. And should the Eagles wait until the third round, it's going to be a little bit of a stretch with Diami Brown, the wide receiver from UNC, could still be available. Dwayne Eskridge, he's a little bit smaller. He's about 5'9", but he's incredibly fast. Gives you that vertical element. The receiver from Western Michigan, of course, he's going to be he's going to go right around 70, I would say, in that range. So, I mean, there's going to be plenty of options there. I don't necessarily know that it's not the end of the world necessarily if they don't get like a Jalen Waddle there at 12. Bateman could be there at 37. It depends on what the Eagles are really looking for. I think they could use an upgrade in the slot from Greg Ward. They need a more dynamic player there. And I also think that they need another outside X receiver.
Yeah.
They need to add some size there because you don't want to go into this offseason banking on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside making that leap again, because we saw what that can do if you kind of put all your eggs into that basket.
No, but do you think which of the receivers, even if there's multiple guys, that you think would be the best complement to what Rieger does?
At 37?
Just in general, like which of the okay, even if you're taking one at 12 of the guys available, who fits better with what Rieger does? Is that Smith? Is that Waddle? Do you say, you know what, Bateman would be a great pairing with Rieger? I mean, Rieger's an interesting guy, a tough guy to kind of evaluate. He didn't play all that much last year.
Yeah, but based on the role that they envision for him and what we can kind of ascertain from when they drafted him, he's a speed guy and they use him in a multitude of ways. Well, I think that a guy like Bateman would be an ideal pairing with him, and he could be available there at 37. So that to me would be the best fit. And then Marshall, the wide receiver from LSU, would be the runner-up there if Bateman shouldn't be available.
Kyle Dubray is watching on YouTube, and he wants to know, Andrew, what do you think of cornerback Tyson Campbell? I think he's the Georgia kid, correct?
Yeah. I like him quite a bit. Now, when you're comparing him to Eric Stokes is more NFL ready. I think that Tyson Campbell, everything that he's gotten, all the production that he's had in college has been just based on his innate athleticism. He hasn't really, he's not refined, nor is he ready to step in right away. I think if you get him into a proper, surround him with the proper coaching staff and support system, he has a much higher upside than Eric Stokes. But what the Eagles need right now, I don't know that he would be the pick. I think if they had their choice, I think the Eagles would be better served taking Eric Stokes because he's no slouch either, but he's also ready to step in there and be that complement to Darius Slay.
All right, this is an interesting one from Frank. What quarterback does Andrew think has the best chance to fall to number 12, and would the Eagles take him if he was there?
What corner?
Quarter.
You said quarter?
Passer, quarter.
Oh, quarter. Man,
Yes. This would be the
Mac
fifth.
Jones should be
This would be the fifth of the five, right?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that it would be Mac Jones if there is one available at 12. But I mean,
So you're not buying this.
You're talking about the fifth quarterback in a class where there's question marks surrounding many of them outside of Trevor Lawrence. When you have the possibility of adding a top tier corner, an impact wide receiver, a versatile offensive lineman, that just wouldn't make any sense to me at all. I think they'd be better served drafting a developmental quarterback in the mid rounds. One of the questions earlier this week was Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond would be the perfect developmental player to add to kind of as like an upside quarterback to back up Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Now, I agree with you. I'm not taking a quarterback at 12 or at 6. I wasn't either, but that's an interesting question. Now, I guess that means, Frank, that you're not buying Mac Jones at 3 still.
No, I'm not. I think it's Justin Fields
At 3, okay. Which is interesting. That's a whole interesting scenario too. I heard Louis Riddick talking about this today, and you probably can attest to this. You've covered the draft. You do a lot of, you obviously do a lot of draft coverage, and over the years, you've gone to the Shrine Bowls and the Senior Bowls and all that kind of stuff. And he was talking about how the information this year is getting out a lot slower. In other words, teams aren't as prepared at this point than they have been in the past.
Yeah, and it's funny. I had this conversation yesterday with someone, and this year is unlike. Well, last year was kind of was another curveball as well. But this year it's really teams have to go off of their scouting and their tape, because there's no combine and there's no these pro day numbers. Listen, the pro day numbers that are coming in for all those who have ever been to a pro day. There's not all these guys aren't running 4.3s, right? I mean, like that's just you have to take all that at face value. That doesn't happen as frequently as many are led to believe this offseason. I mean, I've never seen so many guys run 4.3s during a pre-draft cycle. So I mean, yeah, the information is getting out relatively slower, and it's kind of this is a year where you really need to rely on your scouting department and what you've seen on film versus these these numbers that are kind of just being thrown out there. And, these testing numbers makes everybody seem like they're, by the way that these numbers are, you think there's 40 guys that are slated to go in the first round. Yeah.
And we got so many questions. Let's try to do a couple rapid fires. We're coming short on time. Nico Collins, do you think the Eagles, he's interesting. He's like a tank, that guy, 6'4". Nico Collins, what do you think?
I like him. I think he fits what the Eagles need from a size perspective. And I also do think that he'll be available at 70. So, yeah, I mean, I think he could step in and be productive. I don't know that it would be right away, though.
All right. This is an interesting follow-up question here from another gentleman who heard the quarterback conversation, is if a quarterback falls to 12, should the Eagles trade out of that pick? Give someone else who wants a quarterback, say, hey, take that pick. Most likely the Pats.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also depends on who's within striking distance for the Eagles. If they think that they can drop down a couple of spots and still get their guy, then yeah, why not?
Let's get one more in here on a wide receiver. Everybody wants to ask about wide receivers. Taylon Wallace, Oklahoma State. What grade does Andrew give him?
A late second round grade on him, and he was another guy that would be a great fit and tremendous body control, good catch radius. He's got speed. He's polished. He's a good route runner. I think that there's a lot to like with him. He's going to be I don't know that he'll be available at 70, so if the Eagles wanted to get him, they'd have to get him in the second round.
All right. There you go. Andrew answering your draft questions. This has been fun. A lot of people getting involved.
No, it is. It is. I really appreciate all the questions.
Yeah, this is almost like our own little version of Ask ITB Football at 4. Mike and Andrew doing Draft ITB live.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate everybody. There's some great questions there.
Yeah, good stuff. Andrew's back on Tuesday with another edition of Football at 4. Draft is 14 days away. We'll get more into it. We'll mix it up more. Andrew DiCecco here on the Sports Bash. Thanks, pal.
Have a great weekend, Mike.
You do the same. And he, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Hotline.